Welcome to Patrick's Scale Studio. My name's Patrick, and I'll be your host. This is video 12 of the build of Trumpeter's 1/200 scale USS Fletcher DD-445. Now, in video 11, which was almost 2 weeks ago, I said that this video was going to be concentrating on getting pages 12, 13, 14, and 15 completed here and getting knocked out. And unfortunately, I cannot get to that today. So we're going to start jumping around in the instructions a little bit and looking ahead and get some of the pieces put together, painted and prepared. And I'll show you how I do all of that. But I'll tell you why I can't actually get these other pages done here in order. In the meantime here, since our last video, I went ahead and I guess these aren't unattached yet. Went ahead and used some thin oils and put in some really thin oil washes around there. And then I dry brushed a little bit on it. And you can kind of see the gloss paint still standing out and catching the light. But also here you see some of these smudge areas right there. I tried putting in a little bit of like dirt, dust, that kind of business right there to show that the ship's been busy and sailors have been walking around on it. Well, it is not dry yet. So I do not want to put any kind of an acrylic clear coat over top of it. So I'll go ahead and put that aside. Same thing on this piece here. But again, we kind of see here some of the details that got brought out with the thin oil wash and the dry brushing. Put that aside. Same thing with this guy right here. And those thin washes are really nice because it really helped bring out a lot of the detail. And the dry brushing on the higher points kind of did the same here. Also, I went ahead and got a lot of thin wash applied here on some of these deck detail parts here. And you kind of see some of the detail brought out on this little hatch area right there. The sides of the depth charges. And then up here, again, some of the oil dirt there that's still drying. A little bit of rust detail around the anchor chains. A little bit of rust detail around the anchor. The same thing on this side here. But yeah, once the smudgy dirt area right here dries up, then I can put down in a acrylic flat clear coat on this and those 3 deck house pieces. I can get that all attached and finally get this down into place more along the lines of a permanent mounting on this build board here, because I will be done with weathering and everything on this. So I'm going to go ahead and get this put aside here so we can jump into some of the other pages that we're jumping around to. Be right back. Okay, so in prepping for the eventual page 12 and 13 steps here, I started getting some pieces cut out and formed and primed. Show those off real quick. Here is the, I don't know if you would call this a hoist or a crane. It's pretty basic assembly. It was just the 2 parts, as you can see here, C4 and C32, but this is painted and ready to go. Along with this teeny tiny little pipe right there. And you can see right there, it's B36. And then these 2 ladders right here, the Photo Etch A53. They're all bent into shape and they're primed, but they are not painted yet. All right, so I do like the look of Trumpeter's photo etch ladders. They look the part. They're thin, but their photo etch is a little bit sturdier than some of the aftermarket sets you can get out there, like from Pontos or the KA. So we got that done, got that prepped. I also started looking here ahead and got more of these teeny tiny little pipes cut out. And these are not painted yet, so they have to be painted. Along with, one second here, some of these photo etch railings. and they are so super thin and delicate. It's almost difficult to see them here. And again, these have to be primed and painted as well. So I usually do it like this, and after I get everything primed, I'll move them over a little bit on the stick so I can get the areas that were not primed, and then rinse and repeat there with the final color that I'm going to put down on top of the prime. But again, the frustration of the oil paint not completely dry yet has hindered me from getting anything out sooner. So I figured I would go ahead and start jumping around here a little bit and getting things prepped up for future videos and future parts of this build. Beginning with these ship's boats here in step 30 on page 16. As you can see, they're pretty simple, 4 parts to make each boat. And I've only gotten so far the tops into the bottoms, and they're not even glued in there yet. But one thing I wanted to point out, and somewhat a source of frustration here with the instructions and how the kit was designed, was these are the davits for that ship's boat. And the way they've got this set up is it would almost appear like you're just supposed to sit this down on these deck house pieces, or it's floating in midair, what have you. And it's absolutely incorrect. So there's no aftermarket solution for this yet either. So with that, I'm going to have to get kind of stuck in the weeds with scratch building. And you can see I put 2 little hoops there, one on the front, one on the back of the ship's boat, and I did that on both. And yeah, those little hoops are about the same size as the loop on a 9 on a penny, a 9 for the date on a penny. And here we go with, I'm going to see if I can get this to even focus here. Here it is. This is a 0.15 millimeter brass wire. I went ahead and put hooks on there. And then I drilled out, I thickened up the end of this davit here, and I drilled a little hole through it so I could fit that tiny little hook that I just showed you. And then on top of that, we've got these right here that I kind of formed, and I believe, I can't remember exactly what the terminology for these are, but just a teeny tiny little hole through there. And these will fit onto the hooks in between the davit and the ship's boat. And it'll kind of, one, allow me to hang the boat on the davits as on the real thing, and 2, provide just a little bit of detail, a little bit of similarity to what's actually on the real thing. And that was about a day and a half of work in getting those formed up. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to do the same thing on USS Stevens when I get around to building that. Because again, there's just no aftermarket solution out there for it. So that's what I've got so far for the ship's boats. What we'll look at in this video here is getting these rudders and these little propellers on, getting the 5-inch practice loader here put together, and then this right here, I believe, again, this is called a Windlass, but I could be wrong. And then part of page 16 is also for 20 millimeter Oerlikons. So let me go ahead and get prepped to. Okay, so starting here with step 30 and getting out these little rudders and the little propellers here for the ship's boats. I'm going to go ahead and get these cut out. I'll probably clean them up here off screen. But they're just teeny tiny little parts. The rudders are actually pretty well detailed. It's kind of going to be a pain in the butt, though, in that they put one of the screw attachment points right between these 2 little detail like strap areas, or this is the hinge that would hold this to the boat. So I'm going to have to, again, very carefully clean that up so I don't destroy the little detail on there. So we got that one and this one here. And for times like this, when I got a little bit of cleanup to do around detail parts because they are inconsiderate about where they're putting those sprue gates, usually I cut the sprue attachment point, very proud of the part itself. When it's just down here and I'm just going to have to do a little bit of sanding, I try to get right up as close to it as I possibly can. So we got those two cut out and needing cleanup, and we'll go ahead and find these propellers here on our photo etch sheet. And I get glare, sorry about the glare, but and for this, I usually get a brand new blade on teeny tiny little photo etch parts. I still have the backing, the plastic backing on this right here, so these don't go flying off into the abyss. All right, he's off. And he's off. So these are just going to require just a very minuscule amount of cleanup. And after that, bend them. I don't even know how much I'm going to be able to do cleanup on them because where these bend, I'll get these up here. See, hopefully we can get the camera to focus that. But the blades of these propellers just are held on by the thinnest little piece of brass to that center. So cleaning them up might be a little bit difficult, but let's go ahead and slide those off. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get these cleaned up and be right back. Okay, so parts are cleaned up and ready to go. Right here, just using a very, very sharp X-Acto blade, I was able to cut off the last little remaining bit of the fret nib that was on one of the blades. Those. So we're going to go ahead and get the propellers put on first. I will hold it up to the screen after I'm done here so you can see. First thing I'm going to do is put just a dab of medium CA on there. Sometimes it's easier to pick up these teeny tiny little pieces here with your finger. It's got enough residual oil in the skin. All right, see here if we can get this to there we go, just barely. And I'm going to reinforce these with CA, and then we will bend the blades out just barely. I'll have to go back in and paint them afterward because these ship's boats are going to get several different colors. I believe it's like a really light haze gray on the inside, and then on the outside it's going to be the colors that the ship are in at the XF24 and XF25. All right, so that's on there nice and straight. There we go. So that one is complete. I'll go ahead and get the rudder on here while we're at it with this, and I'll just do the other one off camera. But that fits in there just like that. The fit's not great. We'll use actually just the regular extra thin. Remove the these parts are so tiny, and here I am thinking about moving into 1/350th scale. So with 1/350th scale, you get so many more options. All right, so that looks like that's actually going to interfere with our hoop a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and position this kind of to the side a little bit. There we go. And that is now looking just the way I want it. All right, so that is the ship's boat done. I will do the other one off camera, and then we will push forward. All righty, next up on page 16, step 31 is our 5-inch practice loader here. And it looks like we've got 3 plastic parts and 2 photo etch parts. So I'll go ahead and get those cut out of the sprue. This side here. B42 is the main bit to this. And I did a little bit of digging online on how these really looked and how they were really used. And it looks like right here is kind of the business end as it concerns the crew. This is where they would be stationed back here doing their practice loading of the 5-inch guns. So that is B42. All right, B51 is another teeny tiny little minuscule part. And then B18 is right here. All right, so those will require a little bit of cleanup here. Go ahead, though, on camera and get these photo etch parts cut out. It looks like we've got photo etch A46 and A50. Just locating them sometimes is half the battle. And it looked, oh, A6, okay. So I thought it said 46 first. And A50, which is right here. Well, this will look pretty nice when it's done. It's not the most detailed assembly for a 1/200 scale ship, but again, I'm not really finding a lot of aftermarket alternatives, and it's kind of buried. So it's not like you're going to be able to really get your head in there to see a lot of detail on it. But it is what it is, and we'll go ahead and go with it. There are parts for that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get these cleaned up, and we'll assemble it here on camera. All right, so we're going to go ahead and everything's cleaned up. We're going to go ahead and start with getting the most substantial parts on first. A little bit extra thin here. And we're just going to drop the tiniest little amount right there, and just kind of glaze that surface right there. And what this will do is give this part just a little bit more beef before you start putting everything else on. And it looks like I missed an ejector pin mark right there. So that might prevent the photo etch from adhering properly on there. Let me go ahead and get that scraped off properly here, and we'll be right back. All right, so the ejector pin mark is sanded off. It's still just a little bit proud of the surface. So the next thing we're going to do is hit the next, or the third plastic part that goes on this assembly. And you can see right here is there's a little notch right here. And this has a corresponding little tab right there, and it just kind of fits on just like so. So get a little bit of, again, just a touch of extra thin. All right, and that is now on. Last parts here are going to be these photo etch parts, and they're pretty simple photo etch parts. Just kind of see where the fold line is right there. This just goes at a 90-degree angle. We don't need any fancy bending tools or anything like that. I'm just kind of all right, there that is. That's done. And then this one right here gets a very, very slight bend. And again, because it's just so simple, I'm not worried about getting any kind of photo etch bending tool or anything like that. The tweezers should provide just enough. And that's about how slight of a bend we're talking. This right here will get attached onto the side. Right there, there's just the tiniest little tab on this photo etch part, and it goes right in the corresponding slot. But it's something that I'm going to have to be right here to be able to do. So I'm going to do that off camera along with this one right here. And this right here, there is just a tiny little depression right here. And this goes right there in that tiny little depression. And that will call it a day for the 5-inch practice loader. So let me go ahead and get that on, and I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. Okay, so that is all done. The 5-inch practice loader is completed. I had to use medium CA right there, and it's actually a little bit easier to kind of let that set for a slight amount of time before trying to put the part on there, so it has like a maximum tackiness to it. Otherwise, if it's too thin, the part will just continue to flail around until it finally falls off. Don't ask me how I know. And then as you can see, thin CA here, because after I just got that sitting in a slot on there, I was able to use the glue looper with a very thin CA, and it kind of wicked its way along the joint. So, but that is the 5-inch practice loader. Not a whole lot of detail again, but I don't think it's going to be a big deal at all. And next up here is step 32 right here, which looks like, again, I think it's called a windlass. I could be wrong. Go ahead and get the C-sprue and get some parts cut out for it. There we go. So the main body of it is C27. There's 2 pegs, so make sure that you're cutting at the sprue connection point instead of taking the entire peg off. And then again, right here, be doing some cleanup around this gigantic attachment point on this tiny little piece. So that is definitely going to require cleanup off camera. And then 2 parts that are C11, which is right here. These should be fairly easy to clean up, but I'm kind of try to provide a little protection here to keep them from flinging off, so I don't have to go looking on the floor for them. All right, that's step 32. Let me go ahead and get these parts cleaned up. I'll probably just even glue them up, everything like that, and show you what it looks like afterwards. Be right back. All right, and that is the complete assembly for step 32. Again, pretty simple, other than the fact that these tiny little drums right here, or wheels, are tiny, and holding them in tweezers runs the risk of them pinging off into oblivion on the floor or a carpet if you've got that. But other than that, pretty straightforward. I'll go ahead and put that aside. The last thing I really want to look at on page 16 is freeing up some of the 20mm Oerlikon cannons from the Midwest model shop armament set here for Fletcher. So this is going to require some cutting and snipping and resin flying in every direction. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and show you these all freed up. All right, so 4 20mm Oerlikon cannons from the Midwest model shop cut out And here they are in all their glorious detail. I definitely recommend using tweezers when you are manipulating these, just because the details are so incredibly fragile. But yeah, go ahead and move that aside. Again, when you're sawing those off, I found it helps to have a soft landing pad like that foam. So that is what remains there of that particular set from the Midwest Model Shop. So we'll be cutting this out here coming up very soon in page 17. Anyway, let me get some of these parts put aside and we will push on to some of these other sub-assemblies. Be right back. All right, so page 17, and this is the furthest we're going to jump around for this video here. But for page 17, I might as well call this like a priming page almost, because everything that we're going to do here is going to definitely require primer before paint, because we're using photo etch, resin, photo etch, resin, and resin. Just to let you know here, I'm going to also put together the kit parts so we can compare that to the parts that I'm going to be using from the Midwest Model Shop, just so you can kind of see what you get out of the kit. And what you get out of the kit is not terrible. It'll build up into a great kit right out of the box, but sometimes it doesn't hurt to add just a little bit of extra detail there. So I'll go ahead here and start off with step 34 here, and that's going to involve one of these oval life rafts. I believe they're called curly floats. And again, there's detail here that you can see they've put large sprue gates up against. So careful cutting these off if you're going to use what's out of the kit. I'll get that cleaned up here, and so the next time we come back, you'll be able to see what that looks like. I, though, am going to be using these Carly floats from the Midwest Model Shop. As you can see, just comparing quite a bit better. But get that cleaned up. But go ahead also and start pulling off the photo etch here for that as well. And I'm not going to get 6 of these out, which would be necessary for this step. Just the one here, but I'll show you what it looks like cleaned up. So go ahead and get the photo etch fret. And my handy tile for cutting parts out against. That is something here. If you use something like this that has a little bit of give to it, what you'll notice when you're cutting parts is the part will actually deform a little bit. So I like to prefer that not happen and have to worry about going back in and rebending it back into its proper shape afterwards. Right, here we go. So for step 34, it's calling for A24, which is right here. And again, really good, sharp X-Acto blade. The reason why I prefer it like this is it allows me to get as close to this part as possible, because this part is going to be so delicate that cleaning it up afterwards is going to be near impossible. And these parts are handed. So what you can do both steps at the same time, prime them, paint them, get them ready, and you'll kind of be able to figure out what goes where just based on how the part's shaped here. As you can see, for 34, which goes on right there, and it comes down onto the port side of the ship. You can see the larger of these triangles is aft. Try to get this picked out here without bending it. It's just so very delicate. But there it is. There's the part. And then all you're going to do here afterwards is get right here. I'm going to kind of hold this flat and just bend this up. It doesn't have to be in perfect shape just yet. There'll be plenty of chance to bend this when you get it into place on the ship, but that's what it is. And that's going to sit like that on the port side. And then we're going to take one of these Carly floats, and it gets glued right there to it. Probably be a lot easier to actually put this in place on the ship first and then glue the Carly float to it. That way you don't have to fight with seeing past that on where this actually glues down into the deck. So we got that cut out and put that aside. And while we got the photo etch fret out, we'll go ahead and get on to number 25 for step 35 on the instructions. All right, that's out. Go ahead and try to wrestle this free of the plastic without bending anything. There we go. Move this around and bend it up. Again, the bends are pretty quick and simple and easy, so don't really need any kind of fancy bending jig or anything like that. It's just something just like that. And I do have a really nice bending tool. Not necessary for those. Once again, while we've got the photo etch out, we'll go ahead and get the photo etch part for step 36 pulled out. And that is photo etch A42. So again, it's on this fret here. Okay, 42. And this part is very delicate. So again, cleanup on this would be a nightmare. It's very helpful to get just as close to the part as you can right off the fret. That way you don't have to worry too much about cleaning it up. There we go. All right, once again. We're going to need something to hold that down while I bend the other side. And once we've got the bend started, we can finish it off the rest of the way with tweezers. Super delicate, super tiny. And on top of this, we're going to be fitting these two little barrel looking things. They almost look like depth charges, but this is not a depth charge rack because those are further aft. But that is plastic part E16. So go ahead and grab that. See, the frets are starting to look a little bare. Now this is going to definitely require a little bit of fine cleanup here because the sprue attachment point on E16 is going to be facing out. The little barrel is facing out from the ship, so definitely want to take some time to clean up that sprue attachment point, which again, to take care of off camera. Which leads us then to these next bits here. Fire directors, which I've got some from the Midwest Model Shop, and the twin 40mm Bofors, which again I've got from the Midwest Model Shop. But I'm going to put together the kit parts so we can compare what they look like. Be right back after I get those parts cut out. All right, we're going to try to get the camera to focus here on everything. So the fire directors consist of three parts. Plastic E9, which is the main base, and then these teeny tiny little photo etch parts here, A62. And the instructions, just the printing, I don't know, very difficult to tell their orientation right there. I kind of was able to make it out a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and pick up those parts, and I'm going to see if we can even get the camera to focus on what they want you to do and why, for me, the resin option is so much better because I don't have to worry about putting those two pieces on this right here. And those two pieces, it's difficult to tell exactly where they go on here from the instructions, so a lot of it would just kind of be what looks right. I'll go ahead and get those glued up off camera and show you what I think Trumpeter intends. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I did get the fire director here in step 37 put together, and I'm going to tell you right now, if you have the patience to do one of these, let alone three, then you're a trooper. So those teeny tiny little photo etch parts are just about impossible to get to sit on there properly. You can't even clean up the fret attachment points on them because they're so tiny. And honestly, there was probably about a half dozen times where I felt like throwing the thing across the room and saying, forget it. But that's it. I mean, it's not bad for 1/200 scale out of the box. Not bad. But getting those photo etch parts on was seriously the largest for this build exercise in patience. This is what comes out of the Midwest Model Shop set. So quite a bit more detailed, and it will look great once it's painted up with just a little bit of a wash put on it. So I'm going to go ahead and put these aside. I got to cut out two more of these, and these were definitely easier to cut out despite the fragile tiny little parts being held up by supports. Definitely easier to cut out than getting the two photo etch parts on that. So I'll put those aside, and we will move on to getting this right here put together. I should be able to do what's provided in the kit on camera. And again, we'll compare to what comes out of the Midwest Model Shop. Be right back. Well, we are pushing 40 minutes here on this video 12 right now. So like you read, the 15 minutes of footage of this right here was just terribly boring, not very spectacular, and I'm not really super thrilled with how this turned out. I guess it's okay. It's made up of 8 parts, and if you're building this directly out of the box, it's okay. But it's definitely, this is one of those assemblies that takes this kit probably out of reach of getting a satisfactory result if you're not at least an intermediate modeler. Instead, this is what I'm going to end up using. It's got the actual sights, the gun sights. It's even got the little foot ladders there to get onto the gun platform, individual pedals. All in all, a much more detailed part, and better yet, no assembly required. You just carefully cut the supports out, and you're ready to go. So that's going to do it for video 12. Wrapped up all the assemblies here on page 17, so everything just has to get painted. Hopefully within a week, the hull will be dry, all the oil painting will be dry, and I can get everything slapped into place from page 12 all the way up through here. Hopefully we can get that done very soon for you. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, any suggestions on where I can improve, or even any insight into what the various pieces of the ship did or how they were used, absolutely, I always appreciate that feedback, and please provide that in the comment section below. It only helps to make me better. And with that, until next time, stay safe, happy modeling.